In the world of business building, we often wonder if it could get any more complicated. GRC, GDPR, ESG, zero carbon, green hydrogen, cybersecurity, and big data. Let's not forget the long funding processes that can make you crazy. If you are a world changing founder and innovator, how do you connect with the support that you need to move ahead? Well, this podcast puts the people, planet, profit through partnerships theory to action by helping you to see opportunities in every episode to create a meaningful partnership. The innovators, experts, and diplomats we interview are all looking for partners, and that could be you. No time like the present to find out. So welcome to Frontrunners Innovate with your host, global business developer Mary Keurig. Hello, everyone. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October of 2023. And because it is, we want to honor all the survivors. We are spending this episode learning and celebrating the gains made that increase the quality of life and life expectancy for all of those who are fighting for the pink. And that's what we're representing today. As you can see, pink ribbons everywhere and pink clothes and pink backgrounds. Everything's pink today. So I'm Mary Keurig. I am president of Frontrunners Development, a global business development company that connects business impact partners. And I'm your host for Frontrunners Innovate, the podcast. So our guests today are Dr. Beatrice Wiafe. And Dr. Beatrice has been a breast surgeon for the past 20 years, 33 of those years in medicine proper, right? And she's a consultant in breast cancer management. She's a chief executive officer and a consultant breast cancer surgeon of the Peace and Love Hospitals in Accra. So we're talking about Ghana right now, and Kumasi, if I said that correctly. And she's a specialist in a hospital working on breast cancer and related diseases. She is the first Ghanaian female specialist general surgeon and the president of Breast Cancer International. All of this we're going to find out more about in a few minutes. With her is Tricia George out of the UK, who has a background in healthcare and patient safety, and she works with several charities now to help women survivors. She is also a survivor herself of breast cancer, and we're going to find out a little bit more about her story, her journey, and what she's doing to help other women with breast cancer. So it's a win-win when we look at all of this collectively. With me today, my co-host, Claude Nogard, who is an entrepreneur and innovator and based out of the U.S., but you're going to hear a voice that's going to tell you he's from another place. So we'll get him to tell us about his journey to the United States in a minute. But he's the founder and CEO of ErgoSuture out of Boston, and I'll let him share a little bit more about that. But welcome to the pink episode of Frontrunners Innovate. So Claude,
thank you.
Yeah, let's situate with you first. So tell us about ErgoSuture and the mission thereof, and we're going to make that connect with what we're doing here today, but share a little bit, if you will.
Absolutely. So let's start with, situating my voice. So French voice of the Caribbean. So born in Martinique, studied in France, biomechanics and business. I basically founded ErgoSuture a few years ago, understanding the challenges we had worldwide, in terms of, suturing, something that people don't pay attention to. The WHO had come out recently with a study showing that, we are falling short of 300 million surgeries every year. In the reality, we are not producing enough surgeons. We aren't producing enough healthcare providers. And the gap will keep increasing. And so we are true believers at ErgoSuture that technology has to play a role to close that gap. And that's very much what we are. Now, we try to stay in our lane. We focus on suturing, which is a core competency in surgical care. And our goal is basically to create the first platform that's basically shift the skills of the surgeon into a device. And so the platform will initially be launched, for minimal invasive surgery, looking at laparoscopic, but agnostic. Actually, the application will go into robotics, into transcatheter applications. But also something that Beatrice might want is looking at, sub-Saharan Africa, which is looking at tools that could help, aid workers to actually close gap and suture easier. That's one of the interests that I have when working with Mary.
All right. Thank you, Claude. I appreciate that. I'm going to turn to Dr. Beatrice, and I'm going to ask you to share a little bit more about your background and what brought you into the surgical space. I'm going to let Michaelene in right now. We have another joining us for this podcast, and I'll turn to her in a few minutes. But go ahead, Dr. Beatrice.
So first, let me thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast. It's such an amazing platform to share some stories. And in fact, if you are asked to share your lifetime story within 30 minutes, it's so difficult. But
You're
I'm
young
happy
enough.
it's happening. So, yeah, you know, I'm happy it's happening in October. And tomorrow we are doing the BCI Ghana Walk for the Cure. That's the T-shirt I'm wearing. Every year in Ghana, we walk for the cure as a fun, as an awareness creation effort. We don't use our walks for fundraising. Otherwise, nobody will come. So, but we want to use the walks to create awareness. And being the first female resident at first, resident surgeon, obviously the women were more comfortable to come to me. And so that's when I realized that a lot of our women were coming too late, that nothing could be done for them. And the one who actually made me start looking into the direction of breast cancer was the 41-year-old who appeared on the stretcher, could not walk. She had bony mets, she had lung mets, and she could not do anything. With the tumor piercing through the skin and anguish in her eyes, looking me straight in the eyes and telling me that, "Doctor, I don't want to die. Please save me. My children are young." But looking at her, I understood that there was virtually nothing we could do practically to save her life, rather than just doing some palliative care. And so I asked her, "Why did you stay for so long?" And she told me she didn't know. She didn't know that that painless lamb was going to end like that. And you see, in our society, women are used to going to the hospital when they have pain or when they are bleeding. And since breast cancer doesn't start with pain, once there's no pain, they think there's no danger. So the woman can have a lump in her breast and not even report to the hospital because they don't see the reason why they should. And then when the woman is living in the city and finds a problem with the breast, they move to the villages, they move to the smallest towns to go and apply herbs and to go for prayers. And so within a short period of time, these women die. And nobody talks about it. Nobody does anything about it. The woman died, left the children, the husband marries another wife, and that's the end of the story. So we needed to kind of empower our women, give them the knowledge, let them understand that the most common cancer in our part of the world is breast cancer. And that is killing a lot of our women when they are young. Breast cancer is diagnosed earlier in the Black woman, and our cancers are quite more aggressive, you know, a lot of triple negative disease. And so that is the reason why we have to be more aggressive in our awareness creation exercises. We need to kind of remove the myths and the misconceptions, the stigma, the fear surrounding breast cancer. Because the woman most often finds out there's a problem, but there's that huge stigma surrounding the disease that she doesn't want her sisters to know. She doesn't want her family members to know. Sometimes she doesn't even want her husband to know. But that one is because some of the husbands are divorcing their wives when they are diagnosed with breast cancer. So the woman feels like instead of telling the husband who would then leave the children with her. She'll rather keep the disease, so the husband would take care of her children. And that is killing a lot of our women, you know, at the prime years. And that's why how we started the awareness creation. I went to a friend who took me to her church, and then the pastor was kind enough to give me the time to talk about breast cancer and give the congregation the time to ask questions. So I answered. It was very interactive. That was my first outreach program. And from there, she took me again to her friend who is who had a radio program, a 2-hour program. She is an actress. She's still in Ghana, an actress, Nana Hayford, who dedicated the time for breast cancer. So I spoke about the disease, opened the phone-in segment. People ask questions, similar questions to those asked in the church. So this meant that our people were hungry for the information. They just didn't know where to get the information. They didn't know what to do and didn't know much about diseases surrounding the breast or breast cancer, and the fact that if you leave it in the breast for a long time, it can spread and cause death. So they rather thought that it's caused by witchcraft, it's a spiritual disease, it's as a curse on a family, and that women will die if they undergo mastectomy. You know, so it took us a lot of time to still try to demystify breast cancer. To be honest with you, we still haven't been able to change the mindset of the people. We still have even educated women going for concoctions, going to the prayer camps, drinking things, applying herbs, and thinking that they will be cured. Yes. And so the theme for this year's walk is breaking the myths whilst working for the cure. Because we need to actually break those myths for the women to know that it's one of the non-communicable diseases. It's a disease that can be treated if you go to the hospital early. Fortunately for us, now we have a lot of breast cancer survivors. Previously, we didn't have. In fact, it was so difficult for me to get a woman to agree to an interview, to have an interview with any radio person. So the first interviews we did, we had to use the hospital bed sheet to cover the woman up. Yeah. Yes, the interviewer had to stand at the back of the woman, and we covered her up so that her relatives will not identify her clothes. So it was so difficult, but with time, we empowered the survivors to come out and to speak out and to share their stories and tell them the good parts of it all. That's maybe God allowed you to live so you can share your story and to help other women from dying. And so these women have started helping a lot, sharing their stories, a project we call Helping Others Through Personal Experience. So we've employed 2 breast cancer survivors who are working in the Peace and Love Hospital and helping us to navigate the newly diagnosed women and to kind of counsel them, the peer counseling. And we also have volunteers who follow the BCI team to the churches, to the communities, to share their stories, to show their prostheses, and to show their scars for people to believe that indeed you can survive breast cancer. indeed, there are people who have survived breast cancer and preserved their breasts. The breasts have been able to, be preserved. And that if you want us to preserve your breast, it means you have to go to the hospital early. But surrounding all this, we realize that poverty is a huge problem. Because you've traveled to the community, you've gone to the woman's church, you've educated her, you've told her that you have to go to the hospital, you've even screened her clinically to find out that there's a lump in her breast, there's something that needs to be handled. But she has no money to even travel from her village to the hospital. So what do you do with such a woman? And so we started to look out for people who can support us, people who can help us to treat some of these women. Because indeed, if we find an early stage disease, we can cure her. And that will increase the number of survivors that we have. So that is one of the missions that we have. That is not enough now to go and educate the women, but we need to add something. We need to encourage them. Yeah. And when I came to UK, when Dr. Michaelene invited me to the program, one lady called Sarah took me to the future home or dreams home to go and look for prosthesis for some of our survivors. So when I was coming back from UK on Tuesday, my suitcase was full of breast prosthesis.
Oh, prosthesis. Oh, awesome.
Prosthesis, hello, to come
the
and share
with
the survivors.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. So it's something that we can do for each other. And sometimes we are lucky to come across people who will, lead us to certain doors that will open for us to be able to get the help that we need for our women. So they will not continue to die prematurely. And my sister, Michaelene, is one of them.
Well,
she's always ready to.
We have to let people know who she is, since we've referenced her a couple of times already. So before I get to you, Tricia, just hang in there. Michaelene Holder-March has joined us, and Michaelene is the connect a dot here. She's the one that did my job. Yes. She introduced me to Dr. Beatrice and to Tricia, and this is the interesting thing, Michaelene. You don't know Claude, but Claude is from Martinique. But yeah, you're on mute, Michaelene. But
Caribbean Global Awards need him. Caribbean Global Awards need him.
This is the funny thing. Okay, so what would the rest of us have in common that Claude doesn't, but maybe next year, is that Michaelene put together the first Caribbean Global Awards dinner banquet event in London this past week, which is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I got to pop in for several hours actually and watch what was going on. Everybody looked gorgeous. Tricia, you were beautiful up on stage. Look at that smile. And yes, everybody was fantastic, and it was a well attended event. I mean, my goodness, every seat looked like it was full. And I think you said, Michaelene, that you're going to be doing something in the Bahamas or for the Bahamas next year. So first, explain what it is that you do real quickly, and then we're going to move on to Tricia just in a minute. But if you will explain what you do, but you're the one that kind of introduced me to these lovely ladies. So go for it.
Okay, so basically, I am a healthcare executive international. I do a lot of transformation projects, and I also design what clinical settings look like. That is, the architects build a beautiful building, and I design what it should look like. It doesn't matter what it is, from cancer to whatever. I do all the interior designs. I get paid for that, which is a good thing. The second thing is I am fundamentally still a registered nurse and a midwife, which I'm awfully proud of. And I have background in so many other things. But I'm the founder of Leaders in Health and Tech, which normally happens every month in the month of October in Ghana. This year we are going completely hybrid, and it won't be in October, it'll be early November. We put it off for that because there's some great doctors all over the world that we are going to be looking at breast cancer in women and in men, because it's an unspoken discussion about breast cancer in men. So we're going to have that as a focal point. There's a reason for that as well. I met Dr. Beatrice, who actually supports most of my work in regards to Leaders in Health and Tech. And I was quite torn, actually, when I saw young women. I mean, we're talking babies who have breast cancer and the stages that it was at. It broke my heart. I remember getting some photos and sat there for a long time. And I questioned, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong universally? Where did we go wrong? Family structure. Where did we go wrong? And I said to her, right, I don't have all the resources, but anywhere I go, I will make sure that your name and BCI and any funding that could be pulled together, if it could save one young lady's life, we are not start. We may not save all, but if we can save one and give them a better quality of life, that is a start. And we had a crisis with a young lady, and that one, I pull all close friends to raise money as much as we can for that person. So the other thing I do is Caribbean Global Awards was a first award. It was a very successful. It was all on Fox News and everywhere, celebrating us. They call it the Extraordinary Night, I think it is. And it's everywhere in the world. And this morning I woke up with people from Hong Kong nominating themselves. I had to say quietly, you're not from the Caribbean or the diaspora. So I'm really sorry, but we can look at that another time. But fundamentally, I am a humanitarian. I've been accepted as a JETRO, a humanitarian and diplomat. And that's very important to me, is what we are doing to help one another, especially as we come to economic crisis, political crisis, and environmental crisis. We cannot leave behind those who don't have the means. And we have to accept, I won't keep it any longer, that within a Black society, we have to be honest and upfront. And that is one. We believe in a lot of necromancy, as some people will say. Some would say voodoo. Some would say our own spiritual context, which blocks us from accepting that illnesses are illnesses, and they're not always what someone did to you. And the second thing is for us to be open and transparent, that when we come across the ills, it's better to share it and get help rather to hide it until it's much too late. And the third aspect in our Black society that we must face is that we need to start investing in our health and not only expect others to invest in our health. And Mary, you are just, that's why you have your award. I hope you were able to download your certificate and show it, because we are super proud of you and love you. I don't know how much you know. That's why next year you got to come on the stage. Yeah? We love you for actually taking time out of your schedule to do what you do. And God bless you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you for all that you do, Michaelene. And I want to give Tricia. Tricia's our resident today, our resident survivor, representing all the survivors that are out there who have decided to use their mess to be blessed. So to actually show what you can do with survivorhood and how to help other people get through their survivorhood. So Tricia, welcome, and thank you for being brave enough to be on. and talk about your journey a little bit. You're gorgeous. I love the smile, and I loved it from the stage. You could see she just glowed. Well,
She was offered a modeling contract. I think it was last night or this morning. I can't remember. Someone said, "Who's that lady who was wearing that beautiful? She's a buyer for John Lewis." And I said, "Oh, it's true." She said, "Oh, she needs to model." And I
know. She had on a gorgeous outfit. Tricia, thank you so much. So tell us a little bit tell us first when you were diagnosed, because you work in the healthcare industry. This had to be an interesting situation for you.
Yes, it was. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me on this platform. So my breast cancer journey started with the accidental discovery of my breast lump in February 2019. As I say, accidental, because I wasn't searching for it. I just reached down into my bosom to fetch a bit of food that had started my journey. I saw my family doctor, we say the GP over here, and she was convinced after examining me that it was actually a cyst, but made the wise decision to send me to my local hospital to be seen by the breast team there. And again, I saw the registrar, and he was convinced that it was a cyst. But I went to have my first mammogram. This is at age 48, having my first mammogram and ultrasound scan and biopsies done. 2 weeks later, I was given the results and told that it was actually cancer. So there I was, getting this diagnosis out of the blue and being absolutely stunned, but resolute that this was not going to be my last moment. So I had to go and have more ultrasound scans done and biopsies. And Michaelene played a very vital role. Sorry, guys, I'm having a very bad hot flush at the moment. So just bear with me, please.
It happens.
Yeah, very, they're just...
Take your time, Trish. Just put on the fan. Put the fan around your neck. Put your fan around your neck. Your
Mary,
story is so important. Your story is so important.
Recording?
Yeah,
what we're gonna do, what we'll do, you go ahead and take care of yourself, Tricia, and come back when you're ready. And we're gonna move into talking about the Breast Cancer International program, or institution that Beatrice has started while you're gone. So you go ahead and take care of yourself for a minute, and then come back. And when you're ready, we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Beatrice.
Yes, so thank you for the opportunity again. So in 2002, I went to register a non-for-profit organization, which will allow me to do that part of the work where I will be able to go to the communities, to go and educate people and clinically examine them. I started to look out for nurses who will be ready to volunteer with me. And so I trained them to breast health nurses and screeners. So when initially I was just going to talk and, answer their questions. But later on, I realized that that wasn't enough. If I finish talking, answering your questions, I should put you down and examine your breast for you. Because I realized that after talking to them in the church, after a while, they will be coming back with huge lumps in their breast. And so it means that at the time that you were talking to them, they already had the problems. So we stopped just talking and added this clinical screening to the activities we were doing. If at the beginning, Ghanaians didn't know what breast cancer was, 2 decades down the line, if you go on the streets and you ask any woman, they will tell you, oh, we've heard about breast cancer. Where did you hear it from? We've been hearing from Breast Care International. We've been listening to the radio. We've been watching on TV what they do. And so they continue to ask them, but do you do the breast self-examination they've been talking about? Then the women will say, oh, no, we know about it, but we don't have time. And so we know that, yes, women, most of our women are single mothers. They leave the house very early and they come home when it's too late. So if we would just leave it to them that they should do it on their own without reminding them constantly, they would never be doing it. And that is how come we started this work for the cure. And whilst in Ghana, I was watching Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure, and the story of how Susan had breast cancer in Dallas, and the sister promised that she would look for the cure and all that. So in 2011, Susan G. Komen approached Breast Care International because I was sending emails. I was, kind of trying to get closer to them. And so they approached us and said they can help us to organize the Race for the Cure in Ghana. So we did that in Ghana, and for the first time, we had more than 10,000 people coming to work for the cure. The second year, it was the biggest number in Africa who had come to work for the cure. But in the second year, we thought that there was going to be some support from Susan G. Komen. Maybe the T-shirts that we use, since our people do not pay for their work, we needed to look for money to produce the T-shirts, money for drinks and for water. And so we didn't have money. And people thought that you are working with a US organization, and so you didn't need money. So we had to then detach ourselves from Susan G. Komen so that we will do a Ghana work for the cure, for people to understand that it's a local thing we are doing for ourselves. So started looking for support in the country. It has taken us a lot of time, but at least it's now a nationwide event. We've had our president joining us for the work, our first ladies, our ministers of state, and various high-powered delegation internationally and locally joining us, the media, both local and international. In fact, Voice of America started interviewing us yesterday, and they are here in Ghana to cover the work for the cure. So, and we've had Mr. Eric Browse. He came from US 2 days ago. He came from Washington to come for the work. We have some from the Netherlands. About 6 people have come. We have some from UK. Yesterday, Natasha arrived in the night just for their work. And so we have people from Morocco and other sub-Saharan African countries coming to join us to work and to showcase survivorship and to, to send that hope, that message of hope to our women, because they are still coming late. And it takes a long time to change the mindset of people. We know that we are going to change the scenario, but it's going to take us a little while. And that's why we add the students So the senior high school students, the upper junior high school students, they are all part of the work. We go to them, we involve them in the education and awareness creation, because our youngest patient was an 11-year-old girl. And at 13 years, we had to remove both breasts. She's 17 years now, and she's back to school. She's healthy, and the family is happy. You know, so we believe that we should involve the youth for them to learn about their disease. They will grow up with the knowledge, and by the time they are adults, they wouldn't believe that breast cancer is caused by witchcraft. They wouldn't believe that it's a spiritual disease. And again, they will help us to educate their mothers, their grandmothers, their aunties. And we have some ladies walking their mothers to the hospital because their mothers are refusing to come to the hospital when they found lesions with the breast. Yeah. So I think when we get this holistic kind of education, training, and involving the men, so that they will also not be that it's a disease that is contagious. And so I have to go and buy a condom because my wife has been diagnosed with breast cancer. You know, so it's all part of the lack of knowledge, lack of awareness that we need to battle with now. But I know that we have a better future. And if you allow me, when we realize that we don't have a comprehensive cancer center of excellence. And that is also something that is fighting against us. So we are working towards that, which is going to be the project from the Lancet Oncology report that we put together. And for those of us at the Breast Care International, we are working with our friends from Johns Hopkins, Harvard, UPenn, and University of Pittsburgh, to put together this comprehensive cancer center of excellence. And that may need a chapter on its own. So we talk about it and look for the funding that we need to start such a big project in Ghana.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And we now have a scope of what it is that you need to kind of move things forward. Tricia, are you back with us now? Are you feeling better? Yeah.
Back, thank you.
Yeah, there's a smile again. Okay. So pick up where you left off, if you will. A little bit more.
Okay, so after receiving the diagnosis, I had to have yet another round of ultrasounds and biopsies done. Michaelene entered the picture at that time, was not happy with the treatment I was receiving at my local hospital. So with her and another friend who's actually a breast cancer surgeon, they got me transferred to another center. And that's where I had my mastectomy done. I keep calling Michaelene's name because she has been very instrumental. She has been, you know, a huge support, propeller, pillar, all the adjectives that you can think of in terms of support and just being there for the past 4.5 years of this journey. Being a healthcare professional, it was quite an experience being on the other side of healthcare on this journey. Unfortunately for me, and as with some other women who are on this pathway, sometimes our healthcare services were not what they ought to be or ought to have been. And, you know, when you have inside knowledge as to what processes should be, and the way things ought to go, when they're not, you can either suck it up and say, well, that's part of the course, or like me, you can be very, very vocal and call it out for what it is. And I did just that, because I was not at all happy. And again, there's Michaelene telling me, this is what you need to be doing, this is what you need to be doing, you know, you don't let this lie. And I need to say this because, you know, when you are in that sort of position where you are not sure what your clinical outcome is going to be, and just from the time you hear the word cancer, the last thing that you need is to have a service failing you, especially if you are part and parcel of that service. So there was a mixture of, I can't believe this is happening. I've heard horror stories, but to be experiencing it is just something that you do not need, because you're now making these adjustments to what is going on with your body. You're waiting for your histopathology results to come through so that you can be told, yes, we've gotten everything, you know, within the margins, we've removed it all. What sort of treatment, if any, you now would need to commence. So in my case, I was started on tamoxifen for 5 years, a 5-year cycle of that. I didn't have radiotherapy, I didn't have chemotherapy. I had very long dreadlocks at the time. They were my pride. And one of the questions that I asked when I was given my diagnosis was, would I lose my hair? And I was told no, I wouldn't. When I started on the medication, I asked the question again. And this was in June. I had my surgery in May of 2019. And in June 2019, I started on my course. And I asked the question and I was told, no, you wouldn't lose your hair. So you can imagine my shock, my horror when the first one fell out. I just thought I was caught up in yet another bad dream. And lo and behold, yes, I lost my hair. But I have embraced, you know, having a bald head. Life has to go on. And one of the things that kept me going was me saying to myself, even when I didn't feel it, but I would say to myself is that there is life after receiving this diagnosis. And I was determined that I would live what I was saying to myself and what I was saying to others. Because there was concern. I wasn't eating. I didn't have an appetite. You know, so there was concern around that. And anyone who knows me knows that I love my food. Yeah, may not appear that way, but I do love my food. And eventually the appetite came back. It took me a while to tap into services that were offered for someone, you know, who's on the pathway. I just wasn't ready. And I said to myself, when I am good and ready, I will embrace these services, I'll get involved. And one day I just went up to my local hospital and walked into the one of the support offices there and just sat there and started talking to the lady. You know, I was there for hours just talking about any and everything. But I didn't want to be pushed into doing it. I just said, you know, when I am ready, I will do so. And that is exactly how that turned out. I then one day gave my testimony at my local Catholic church, which was something that we don't normally do, but I just felt this calling to do that. And in doing so, one of my fellow parishioners then reached out to me to introduce me to a cancer charity that she works for. And this charity focuses on health and well-being. So looking at the foods that we eat, encouraging, a balance of exercise and rest and things in moderation and that sort of thing, debunking the myths around, all the things they say you shouldn't be eating. Because I was just like being told by everyone, don't eat this, drink this, eat that, don't eat that, cut this out, introduce this. And I was like, oh, I don't know, what is really the truth here, what is based in science fact, what is based on, just traditions, etc. So for that organization, I'll call the name if that's allowed. That's the World Cancer Research Fund, or WCRF. I actually did a photo shoot for them, wrote a little article for a magazine for them, and was involved in their Christmas campaign in 2020. So I just felt it was important to just get that message out there that in as much as you are on this pathway, you are experiencing different things, life has not ended. And even for the people who, it might be the husband, it might be the children, it might be the wife, whomever, who is walking with that cancer survivor on their pathway, there's also recognition of them and the efforts that they are making, and letting them know that, it's because you may have your off days, when there isn't a smile, you have moments when you think, is this going to come back? And you're not always able to communicate that in the right way to the people around you, the people who care. So it's also getting the message out to these supporters that, sometimes when this survivor is not in survival mode, it's not in champion mode, it's not that they don't appreciate, your presence and what you are doing. So I then recognize that not just here in the UK, but also in the Caribbean, where we come from, it's even a bigger issue. Because one, we don't have the advanced resources that we have here in the UK, in Canada, in the US, etc. And many of the women who have breast cancer, by the time they are told that they have breast cancer, it's too late. It's very late for many of them. And the age ranges, it's just astounding, because from the very young to, mature age women. And what we're seeing, what we're hearing infrequently, these women, by the time they get the diagnosis, they're already at stage 4. For those who do go on to have surgery, unlike here in the UK and elsewhere, it's a very limited range of options that they have. So the majority of them end up having a mastectomy, no hope of having a reconstruction or anything like that. And then they're having to improvise in terms of the prostheses that they wear. So another one of my charities that I'm involved in, that's the Trinidad and Tobago Healthcare UK Forum of TOUGH. What I was able to propose to the board was us doing a project in terms of sponsoring the purchase of a specific type of bra, as well as a prosthesis, and sponsoring, a couple women. So at least they've got that. We know if you're wearing the right bra and your clothes are sitting properly on you, that boosts your self-esteem. You can go out there and face the world. Because again, unlike what Dr. Beatrice said, it's very similar. The whole stigma attached to the breast cancer, the self-consciousness, people pulling away, people not understanding. It's no different in the Caribbean.
Right. Tricia, we're getting towards the end of the podcast, and I hate that, but I feel like you're getting to the place where this is what makes it really good. you have segued from what you had to deal with into what you're doing to help others. And I think that's such a big piece of it. I wanted to give Claude just a minute to see if there was any comments or questions, because I see him, it looks like he's writing notes. So I wanted to see if he had any comments or questions right here at the end. It's a shame that we have to come off of this, but I got another call coming up.
It's a shame. How much time do you have? 2 hours? Because
no, I know we could go on. Wow.
I think, something I didn't say in the introduction, beside being a cancer survivor, I was also a caregiver for my ex-wife that has stomach cancer. So I look at this from, the caregiver perspective as well as the patient perspective. But I think I would have a question for Beatrice. I'm stunned, with the work you're doing, and there's a lot to be done from, how to translate, some of the first word, care and into where you are, and that's a lifetime journey. So I congratulate you for that. But I have a question regarding the how you observe progress, from the time you started, where most women were very much stage 4, and to where you are now. Have you seen an evolution? Do you have more patients coming in stage 1, stage 2?
Yes. If those days, about 2 decades ago, the surgeries that we're doing were more than 70% were mastectomies. And they were even palliative mastectomy. But now we're doing about 55% of breast conserving surgeries, meaning that we are picking some of the cases early. And even if we have a stage 2B, we are able to downstage the tumor and then do breast conserving surgery for them. Our people have an obsession, there's no way the woman is going to accept a mastectomy. They want you to even preserve as little as this breast tissue for them, rather than taking the whole thing. It's all because of the mindset, because of the myths surrounding mastectomy. But things have changed. I mean, now we have survivors who are showing their prosthesis. So this morning we were in a radio station, a very popular one, Peace FM, and the survivor just removed her prosthesis and showed to the people. It was on Facebook. So she showed it that this is what I've been wearing for the past 11 years. And when I put it back, I'm a complete woman, So we've had that kind of transformation, which is positive change. We can do better, but we need to have more people coming on board to support the activities, so we can actually get more people coming earlier and surviving the disease.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that the last thing I would say, I heard that you are doing some work with men, saying that being the man on the stage right now, there's a lot to be done around men. Not only from an education standpoint, but as you say, in Ghana, the mother and the family carry for the kids. But when you go to the US, it's a single family entity, so the father carry or has to carry or disappears. I think there's a lot to be done early on. I think that around education of the men, because from the acceptance to carrying, taking over the mother's role, and then basically how to give back to the mother her life. As you say, the prosthetic is one thing, but then there's intimacy. Can my husband still look at me the way there's a lot to do. So, if I can be of any help, let me know. But there is a lot to talk about. So I could spend 3 hours talking, just...
This is a good conversation to be having.
Oh my God, it's so good to spend. So good.
Yeah. Well, you guys know each other now. And I think if we need to continue this conversation, we can certainly do that at some point. But we have to cut this off at this point. I just want to say, stay with me for a second as I said goodbye to everybody else. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're hearing it somewhere else where you get your podcast, because we're everywhere now, what we want you to do is to go to frontrunnersinnovate.com, where you're going to get this podcast, you're going to get the visual of it, and you're going to get ways to connect with all the individuals that you see here. We'll have their LinkedIn profiles and some bio information, that sort of thing, so that you get a chance to connect with anybody here. Remember that Dr. Beatrice is working with these wonderful outlets that need your help, your support. She's verbalized that. I'm sure Tricia's charities that she's working with need some help. And I think, Dr. Beatrice, what really hit me is the prosthesis that you need, that you always love to come away with. That's really welcome, but also some dollars for support. And Tricia will let us know maybe some links to the charities that she's working with, so that we can maybe boost her a little bit. Michaelene, thank you as always for all the wonderful connections and the people that you work with and all the good work. Claude, fantastic. Keep it rolling, and ErgoSuture is coming to you soon, everybody. So be aware of that. So if you're a surgeon listening to this, this is something for you to know. We will have some information about ErgoSuture on our website as well with this podcast. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.